Welcome, listener, in the shadows. We bring stories into the light. Join me as we explore the encounters no one speaks of and the things that watch from the dark. If you're still here after all that, you already know the kind of stories we tell. The kind that crawl under your skin, that echo in the quiet when the episode ends. If you want to carry a piece of that darkness with you, wear what haunts you. Our exclusive line of merch is made for listeners who feel more at home in the uncanny, the unspoken, the things that don't make sense in the daylight. Shirts, hoodies, and other gear, designed with that same atmosphere of dread, mystery, and whispered wrongness. Candles support the channel, feed the stories. You can grab yours at https://theshadows printify me, and as always, don't look behind you. It peaks, the thing at my window, a true nightmare, Chapter 1. The first flicker, I know how this is going to sound. God, I know. The brain is a liar, it fills gaps with shapes. It tricks you into seeing things in patterns, in shadows, in the jitter of light when you're too tired to focus. That's what I keep telling myself. That's what everyone else would tell me if I ever tried to say this out loud. But I'm not imagining it. It started as a flicker. That's the only way I can describe it. I was sitting here, yes, right here at this desk, the one pressed against the wall beneath the window, typing out nothing important, scrolling, killing time. And then I saw it, a movement against the glass. Not a reflection, not the shift of my own hand. Something outside. The window is covered by these paper-thin curtains, cheap things that don't keep out the streetlights, don't keep out the shapes. They flutter with the draft, and through them I swear I saw, not a face exactly. Not then. More like a shape leaning close. Like someone standing in the dark, on the wrong side of the glass, their body lost to shadow, while only their outline pressed forward. And I froze. My whole body just locked up. My throat dried out, my fingers went numb against the keyboard. You know that feeling when you know someone's looking at you, the weight of it, that's what it was. A pressure against my skin. A stare that didn't blink. I sat there for, I don't know how long. Long enough for the glow of my monitor to start to feel loud, like it was drawing attention. Long enough for me to convince myself to look again. And when I did, it was gone. The curtain swayed gently in the draft. The window showed only the dim street below. Nobody there. Nothing at all. But here's the part that I can't shake. Here's the part that makes me sit here night after night, unable to turn away. It didn't feel like I caught something leaving. It felt like something pulled back. Like it had been leaning close, studying me, and only retreated when it knew I was aware. And the moment I looked away, I swear I felt it there again. Chapter 2. I've started leaving the lamp on at night. Not because I'm afraid of the dark. I'm not a child. I don't cling to nightlights. But because the dark moves now. Or maybe it always did, and I just never paid attention until recently. The problem with watching too long is that you start to see patterns where you shouldn't. I've caught myself staring at the folds in the curtains for half an hour, convinced they were breathing. The first night I left the lamp on, I thought I'd feel safer. I thought light would expose everything for what it really was. Shadows, reflections, paranoia. But the thing about light is that it doesn't make the dark disappear. It just makes the dark hide more cleverly. I saw it anyway. The curtains shifted, not enough for a draft, not enough for my own clumsy movement, but just a tremor, like someone brushing against them from outside. I told myself it was the window frame settling, or maybe my imagination filling in gaps. But then I caught it. A shape. It wasn't clear, not a full face, not yet. Just the impression of one. A paleness behind the fabric, like skin too close to glass. I froze. I didn't move, I didn't breathe, I didn't blink. I thought if I stayed still enough, maybe it wouldn't realize I saw it. Maybe it would go away. But it didn't. It leaned, slowly. The curtains pressed against the glass, and that pale shape distorted like something flattening its cheek against the window. I couldn't see its features, not exactly, but I swear to you there were eyes. Two hollows darker than the rest. Waiting, measuring. I didn't scream. That's the part that disturbs me most. I didn't scream, didn't even make a sound. I just sat there, clutching the blanket, every muscle locked in place, staring at those black pits until my vision blurred. And then, when I finally had to blink, it was gone. Do you understand what I'm saying? It wasn't that I looked away and imagined it. It was that it chose to vanish when I blinked. Like it knew the timing, like it was playing. I should have left the room right then. Should have grabbed my keys, my phone, and gone to a friend's place, anyone's place. But I didn't. Instead, I sat there until morning, forcing myself to watch the window, terrified that if I closed my eyes for more than a second, it would come back and… what? Come inside. I don't know. I keep telling myself I'm exaggerating, that maybe I was half asleep, maybe my eyes were playing tricks, maybe it was just the reflection of something outside. But the more I repeat that, the less I believe it. Because when I got up this morning and opened the curtains, there was a mark on the glass. Not a handprint, not exactly, but the faint, greasy outline of something pressed there too long. A cheek, a face. I wiped it away before anyone else could see. And I don't know why I did that. Chapter 3, the curtains again. I keep thinking I'll get used to it. That if it happens often enough, the edge will dull, and I'll stop reacting like a startled animal every time I feel the shift in the room, the weight of being noticed. But I don't. Tonight I sat at my desk longer than usual, writing meaningless things just to distract myself. Grocery lists, fake letters, fragments of sentences that trailed off into nothing. My pen shook even when I wasn't thinking about it, or maybe I was. Maybe I never stopped thinking about it now. The curtains moved again. It wasn't the heater. I know the sigh of that old machine by heart, and this wasn't it. The air wasn't stirred. Nothing brushed my skin. The fabric just twitched, the way it does when someone's fingers pinch it from the other side. A little tug, then release, so it falls back into place, whispering against the glass. I told myself not to look. I promised myself, but I always do. I turned my head slowly, like that would soften the impact of what I'd see. There it was. Not a face, not exactly. More like a smear of one. A suggestion of eyes where eyes should be. A faint pale blur that leaned in close against the thin barrier. It didn't breathe fog onto the glass, but I swear I saw the faintest shimmer of condensation, like the air itself was bending toward me. I tried to convince myself it was my own reflection, but I wasn't sitting at the right angle. And besides, reflections don't linger. They don't press forward. It stayed longer this time. Long enough that my heartbeat went past panic into something worse, acceptance. Like my body had decided, yes, you'll die here, but not tonight. Maybe tomorrow. I whispered something. I don't know why. I think it was, I see you. And it twitched. That's the only way I can describe it. A sudden, jerking little recall, as though my words surprised it, or delighted it. Then it was gone, sliding out of sight with that same impossible silence, leaving the curtains swaying as though mocking me. I didn't write this down right away. I sat there, staring for what felt like an hour, afraid that if I looked away, the pale blur would return and press closer. But I think it wants me to keep writing, because when I finally reached for the pen again, the curtains stilled. Perfectly still, like it was waiting. Chapter 4. I've tried sleeping with the curtains shut tight. I even clipped them together with clothespins, like some desperate kid afraid of monsters. But last night, I woke up to a thin beam of moonlight cutting straight across my bed. The fabric had parted just enough for a sliver of glass to show. And in that gap, I swear I saw it. Not its full face, not details. Just the impression of something pressed close, closer than it has ever been before. I lay frozen, my breath stuck in my chest, staring at that tiny crack in the curtain. The pale light caught the surface of the glass in a way that made it look wet, as though someone's breath had fogged it from the outside. I waited for it to vanish, to shuffle back into the dark. But the longer I stared, the more certain I became that something was still there, still leaning forward, still watching me, not shifting, not restless, just patient. Eventually, my eyes blurred with exhaustion. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke up this morning with the curtains still gaping. My chest hurt, like I'd been holding my breath all night. I want to convince myself it was a dream, a half-dream, that my tired brain is pulling tricks. But dreams don't leave the fabric pinned open when you wake. Dreams don't leave that feeling of being weighed on, as if the night itself had its palm pressed against your sternum. I keep circling the same thought. If it's willing to press that close to the glass, what's stopping it from going further? I tell myself the glass is a barrier, a shield. but glass is fragile. And sometimes, when I'm sitting here writing, I think about the fact that glass doesn't just break outward, it breaks inward too. And when it does, it showers you in silence. Chapter 5. Tonight, I made a mistake. I thought if I ignored it, if I didn't look toward the window, if I just went about my routine, it would lose interest. Predators get bored when prey stops reacting, right? That's what I told myself, so I tried it. I sat on the couch with my back half turned to the window, pretending to scroll through my phone. My heart was punching at my ribs the entire time, but I could feel it there. I don't know how to explain that sensation, like heat against the skin, but colder, like static, prickling at the back of your skull. Minutes stretched. I almost started believing maybe I'd imagined it all, but then I coughed. Just a sharp, dry cough. My throat had been burning all day. The sound cut through the silence of the room, and from the window, faint, muffled, but there, I heard it. A cough, not perfect, too hollow, too thin, like it was trying to remember how sound works, but close enough that every muscle in my body locked. I didn't move, didn't breathe. A minute passed, then another. Then, just as I began to think it was over, I shifted in my chair, leaned my elbow onto the armrest, rubbed my temple with my hand. And outside, in the glass, something mirrored the motion. Not clearly, just the faintest shadow shift. The outline of an arm tilting the same way, the suggestion of a head cocking in unison. It's watching closer than I ever imagined. It's learning. That was the first time I really understood what this thing is doing. It's not simply observing, it's rehearsing. And when it knows enough, it won't need the glass at all. Chapter 6. I heard it tonight. Not outside. Not on the grass, not brushing against the glass, not pacing in the silhouette of the window like it has before. I heard it in here. I'd left the television on in the living room for noise. Volume turned so low the voices were barely murmurs, just a hum to keep me company. I don't even remember what was playing. I wasn't paying attention anyway, sitting hunched over this notebook, chewing the end of the pen like a nervous tick. I was writing down every detail I could remember about the last time I saw it. The way it didn't move when I closed the curtain. The way it stayed, like a painting, a smear of something wrong pressed against the pane. And then, over the low hiss of the television, I heard them. Footsteps. Light at first, cautious, as if someone was testing the weight of their own body. The kind of steps you take when you don't want the floorboards to betray you. A long creak. Then another. Slowly, carefully, one by one. They weren't in the living room. I know the acoustics of this house too well by now. Every tick of the old heater, every sigh of the pipes, every complaint of the wood. These weren't those. These were feet. Bare, deliberate. They came from the hallway. At first, I froze in my chair, pen hovering above the paper like I was afraid to breathe it into motion. My throat dried instantly. You know how sometimes fear feels like it's squeezing your chest from the inside? That's what it was, pressure, like my ribs were about to splinter inward. I told myself to get up, to look, to prove I was wrong, but my legs wouldn't move. My eyes wouldn't even lift toward the doorway of the room. I just stared down at the page, ink blotting into the paper because my hand had stopped moving. And the steps kept coming, closer this time. I think it stopped right outside my door, just standing there, waiting. The television's murmurs felt like a cruel joke, voices pretending at company while I sat there listening to the silence between the breaths of my house. I didn't hear it walk away. I didn't hear the floor shift back. It just stopped. I sat here for hours before I even dared to move. And even now, writing this, the door is shut, locked. But I keep staring at the thin crack under the frame, half expecting to see a shadow pause there. I don't know what's worse, the nights it watches from outside, or this, the suggestion that it's already in here with me. Chapter 7. The second room. I don't remember falling asleep, but I know I woke up wrong. My throat was already tight, my chest pounding like I'd been running, though I hadn't even stirred. I just opened my eyes and realized that something was off. Not in the window, not outside, but inside. The air of my apartment had changed. That's the only way I can put it. When you've lived in a place long enough, the air itself becomes a kind of background hum. The faint draft under the door, the way the old radiator ticks, the silence between it all. But this air was different. It felt denser, harder to pull into my lungs, as though the room was already occupied and I was stealing someone else's breath. For a long moment, I didn't move. My eyes darted around, pretending to still be closed, that trick children do when they're convinced something is in the closet. But even with the shallow slits I allowed myself, I could see enough. The dull outline of my dresser, the faint blur of my desk, the curtains hanging still and heavy. Nothing moved, nothing stirred. And then footsteps. Not the ones from before, the creaks and whispers I could still argue away as tricks of the building. These were distinct, heavy, measured. They carried weight like something pacing in the next room, my living room, slow enough that I could imagine the carpet fibers flattening under each press. One step, pause, another step, longer pause, another step. It was deliberate. That was the part that broke me. It wasn't wandering. It wasn't aimless. It was pacing as though whoever or whatever was out there was thinking. I counted each sound, timing the pauses, my body frozen under the blanket. It circled, looping around the thin partition wall. Then the steps stopped altogether, replaced by silence so thick I could hear the spit click in my throat when I swallowed. I couldn't help it. I whispered, "Who's there?" The worst part wasn't that there was no answer. The worst part was that, for a fraction of a second after the words left me, I swore I heard the faintest rasp of my own voice echoing back, buried under the walls. Not quite a mimicry, not quite an echo, just enough to make me doubt if I'd heard anything at all. I tried to muster courage, told myself I'd get up, throw open the bedroom door, and prove nothing was there. But the knob loomed only a few feet away, and I couldn't bring myself to look directly at it. I had this crawling certainty that if I focused too hard, the knob would twitch. And then came the smell, a dampness in the air, like wet soil left too long in a dark place. It crept under the door, into my sheets, into my skin. I gagged on it, clapping a hand over my mouth to keep quiet. I thought then about leaving, running barefoot down the hall, out into the night, not even locking the door. But that's when the steps started again. This time closer, pressed against the opposite side of the thin wall that separated me from the living room. Step, pause, step. And then, impossibly, a long drag, like something heavy brushing along the plaster. I don't know how long I lay there, heart clawing at my ribs, waiting for the door to open. But it never did. The steps retreated slowly, the way a tide pulls back from the shore. By the time the silence returned, I had tears burning my eyes, not from fear exactly, but from the terrible effort of keeping so still, so utterly still, in my own bed. I didn't sleep again that night. I don't think I'll ever sleep properly again, because now I know this much is true. It isn't just watching me anymore, it's inside. Chapter 8. I've been pacing my room for almost an hour, and the air feels like wet wool pressed against my face. I keep telling myself I won't look, that if I just leave the curtains drawn and keep my eyes anywhere but the window, this will all stop, that it feeds on my acknowledgement, but my body betrays me every time. My head tilts, my eyes wander, and I find myself staring at that pale rectangle of curtain fabric like a moth fixated on flame. Tonight, though, tonight was different. It didn't wait. It didn't linger out in the periphery, teasing me with flickers and motions that might be tricks of light. The curtain swayed, as though someone had brushed a hand against it from the other side. No breeze, no draft. I checked every vent, every crack of the window frame. And then the fabric pressed inward, as if something leaned against it. Not hard, not aggressive, just present. A weight that wanted me to know it was there. My chest went so tight I thought I'd faint. I remember whispering, "Please don't," without even realizing I was speaking aloud. My voice cracked like I was begging someone I loved not to leave, or maybe not to come closer. And then I saw it. The curtain pulled back, not all the way, just enough for the windowpin to show. And pressed against the glass was a face, or what I think was a face. Pale, flat, not textured the way skin should be, as though the features had been painted on with trembling hands. A pair of eyes locked with mine, eyes too wet, too glassy, bulging slightly, as if they had been stolen from something else and forced into a shape that shouldn't contain them. It wasn't still either. The mouth moved, no sound, just lips parting and stretching in imitation of words I couldn't hear. I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink. my throat filled with the taste of iron, metallic and sour, like I was swallowing blood. And then it did something that broke me. It raised its hand, slow, deliberate, and pressed it against the glass. 5 long fingers, too long. They bent and straightened as though testing how human hands should move. And then, God help me, it tilted its head, mimicking the way mine had tilted just moments earlier when I tried to reassure myself that nothing was there. It learned. It was learning. I fell backward onto the floor, scrambling like a child trying to push away from a nightmare. My heel caught the leg of the desk, and papers scattered everywhere. My notes, my records of all the nights leading up to this. By the time I looked back up, the curtain was flat again, undisturbed, like nothing had happened. But I know what I saw. The windowpin still carried the faintest smear where its palm had pressed, an oily residue clinging to the glass. Proof. It was the first time it showed me all of itself, or at least enough of it to know I was never imagining any of this. And yet, here's the part that terrifies me most. It didn't seem like it wanted to scare me. It seemed like it wanted to show me. Like this was just the beginning. Chapter 9. I don't know how to describe last night, except to say that I survived it. I survived looking at it, really looking at it. And I woke up this morning still myself, though I half expected to open my eyes and see something else staring back in the mirror. The house feels different in the daylight, almost ordinary again. Almost. There's a stillness in the air that pretends to be safety, the kind of quiet you'd hear after a storm when the birds haven't returned yet, when the trees look polished and fragile, and you realize how easily they can break. Today I've gone about things almost normally. I made coffee. I let the steam fill the kitchen and pretended the sound of the kettle was louder than my thoughts. I opened the blinds halfway, and though every nerve screamed at me not to, I forced myself to look out the window. The yard was empty. Just the brittle grass, the skeletal tree, the fence leaning slightly to the right. Empty. But the emptiness has a weight to it now. Every corner of this house feels watched, even when there's no sign of anything. My own shadow on the wall makes me jump. My reflection in the toaster looked too fast, like it leaned forward before I did. These are small things, fleeting things, but I can't dismiss them. I can't tell myself anymore that it's just my nerves. It isn't. It's seeped into everything. I caught myself writing a note today. It saw me. I saw it. Over and over again on a scrap of paper, like some kind of mantra I couldn't stop. I crumpled it up and threw it away, but the words are still circling inside me, repeating, like they've carved themselves into the folds of my brain. The strangest part is how still it's been. I expected another appearance last night. Another knock, another flicker, another sound. Nothing. Only the memory of those eyes and that face pressed too close to the glass. That silence is worse. It means it's waiting. I feel like I'm sitting in a theater where the curtain has just closed and everyone else has gone home, but I'm still in my seat, waiting for the next act to begin. The stage is dark, the air stale, but I know the show isn't finished. It's watching the way I hold my pen now. It's watching the way I breathe, the way I write these words. Every quiet moment is just it preparing its next move. And the quiet stretches on, stretching thin like glass. I know it will shatter soon. Chapter 10. I told myself I would never write about it if it came inside. That was my bargain, some superstitious rule I made with myself early on. As long as it stayed outside, I could put words to it. I could handle it like a diary, like a confession booth. But if it came in, if it crossed the line of the window, then the writing would stop. Because writing it down would make it real. And real would mean I'm not just watched anymore. I'm kept, but I'm writing anyway. My hand is trembling as I move the pen across the paper, the ink jerking in uneven strokes. Because not writing is worse. Not writing is silence, and silence is when it gets the loudest. It was last night. No, that's not right. It is still night. I haven't slept since. The clocks have stopped meaning anything to me. Time has been eaten away by its presence. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I was lying on my side, half asleep, when I felt it. The air shifted, subtle but heavy, as if the pressure in the room changed. My ears popped. The curtains weren't moving. No draft. No open window. Yet something pressed against the inside of my chest, a thickness that made every breath sound too loud. Then came the sound. Not outside anymore, not beyond the glass. Inside. The floorboards creaked at the foot of my bed. Not the soft groan of an old house, not the tick of wood settling. This was weight, deliberate weight. I didn't move, couldn't. My eyes snapped open, but I kept my body rigid, feigning sleep, the human instinct to play dead. But my eyelids betrayed me. They twitched, fluttered, giving away the terror boiling underneath. I heard it take a step, closer. The rhythm was wrong. The footsteps were uneven, dragging almost, like it had too many joints in the wrong places. A shuffle, then a pause, then the deliberate push of wood bowing under strain. Each step filled my skull like thunder rolling under my bed. And then breath, not mine. It exhaled in the dark, warm and wet and too close. My neck prickled as though it had leaned down, bent unnaturally low, and hovered above my ear. The sound was almost curious. Inhalation sharp, exhalation ragged, like it was trying to remember how to do it. I wanted to scream. God, I wanted to scream, but my throat locked like iron. I could only listen. My own breathing sounded like wind through broken glass. The room was silent except for the scrape, its hand. I didn't see it, but I felt the shift of weight on the mattress, a depression pressing the sheets beside my legs. Something sat down. It was on the bed. I knew then the curtain wasn't a border anymore. The window wasn't a wall. Whatever game it had been playing, whatever rules it had been following, had ended. I thought of the rules I had made myself, about not writing if it came in. How foolish that was. There are no rules, not for it. So I'm writing this now, hunched over my desk, the lamp burning weak yellow, my back pressed against the wall because I can't stand to leave it exposed. Every time I glance at the bed, I expect to see the sheets indented, or worse, something still sitting there, waiting for me to notice. It's been quiet for hours. Maybe it left. Maybe it's still here, patient, crouched in the corner just outside the lamp's circle, studying me with those two still eyes. I don't know what happens next, but I know one thing. It's not peeking anymore. It's inside. Chapter 11. I don't even know how to steady myself enough to write this. My hands won't stop shaking. Every word feels like it takes a year to scratch onto the page. My whole body is jittering, raw with panic, like I've been stretched thin and then dropped into freezing water. It wasn't the window this time. It wasn't the hallway or the corners or the scrape of something pretending to be outside. It was here, in the room. I heard it first. No, felt it, the way you feel when someone enters a room before you've even turned to look. That dense change in the air, the prickling heat across your skin. I was curled in bed, my laptop still humming beside me, its pale glow pushing out just enough light to keep me convinced I was safe. I'd written myself into exhaustion, but I couldn't sleep. I was too aware. And then, wait, the mattress shifted. I froze, every nerve in my body locking up, because it was the kind of movement you only feel when another body has sunk down on the edge of the bed. That slight tilt, the pull of gravity dragging you towards someone else. My mouth filled with metal, blood, adrenaline, terror. I don't know, I didn't want to look. God, I didn't want to look, but I did. The laptop screen had gone black, and in its dark reflection I saw the shape. Not outside, not framed by glass, not watching through curtains. Right beside me, perched on the mattress as if it had always been there. Its face was wrong. Too long, stretched somehow, like skin over a frame that wasn't built for it. The eyes were wide, not blinking, and they caught just the faintest glimmer from the laptop screen. They looked glossy, wet, alive. It tilted its head, just the way I tilt mine when I'm trying to read something. And I swear to you, I swear, it whispered, still awake. In my voice, I wanted to scream, but my lungs collapsed on themselves, shriveling tight as if it had reached inside me and stolen the air. I rolled off the bed, half falling, half crawling, dragging myself toward the door. The carpet burned my knees. I slammed the light switch, flooding the room with yellow glare, and it was gone. Not with a noise, not with a flash or rush of movement. Just gone, like flipping a switch. 1 second it was leaning there, its face close enough for me to see pores, the faint twitch in its cheek. The next second, emptiness. My mattress still dented, as if something heavy had just lifted itself away. I'm writing this from the hallway floor. I don't want to go back in there. I don't want to step inside that room ever again. But that's not even what has me shaking worst of all. When I bolted into the hall, I heard it again. From behind me, from inside my room. My own voice, speaking with calm, practiced certainty. I'll keep watching. Chapter 12. I can't keep the candle lit. Every time I strike the match, the flame bends sideways, like the air itself is leaning away from me. It snuffs out faster each time. Shadows gather faster than I can hold them back. I know I shouldn't waste the matches. I know I shouldn't be writing. But something in me, something still human, keeps insisting that if I put this down, if I leave these words pressed into the paper, then maybe I won't vanish completely. Maybe someone will know I was here, that I didn't just dissolve. The house feels different tonight. Not the same slow bleed of unease I've learned to endure, but hungrier. It's as if the walls are closer, thicker, breathing against me. I swear the plaster shifts when I'm not looking. When I press my ear against it, I can hear something moving in the hollow space, dragging itself along. No footsteps, not anymore, just weight, sliding, settling closer. My skin itches like it already knows what's coming. I can't lie to myself anymore. I won't make it out. Not with the way it's watching, not with the way it learns. All I can do is finish this page before the candle dies again. All I can do is try to put the right words in the right order, as if words will hold it back. If these are the last lines you ever read from me, then understand, I didn't stop writing. I was stopped. You made it back for now. But the things in the dark never truly leave, do they? They watch, they wait, and perhaps they remember you now too. If you want to hear more, if you dare to listen again, step back into the shadows. Like the video. Subscribe, but know this, some doors once opened do not close so easily.